Before you launch out to do more work, make sure you learn the context of how we work better together. I'm here to prepare leaders for new fields in business and ministry. I was studying what productivity really looks like. I started with the Renaissance and then worked all the way up to present day. There's 4 historical landscapes, and then there's one future-focused landscape, what I believe we are heading into next. So starting with kind of the Renaissance period, this was what I call the craftsmanship landscape. And work was done with the idea that this is your lifelong pursuit. You are going to get better at this over time with deliberate practice, repetition, supervision. You're going to get in an apprenticeship or a guild, and then you would be known for that trade, right? You would be the blacksmith, the sculptor, the painter, the farmer. You had one big idea, and that's what you went for with your life. And this is actually the foundational pursuit for productivity today, which is, are you pursuing a lifestyle of mastery, right? Are you working at something with a disciplined intention to become the best you can be, or the best that is? That was kind of the context of this first landscape, the craftsmanship work landscape, right? It's all about how are we pursuing mastery, because that is what productivity is defined by: quality, precision, and a lifelong pursuit. Then we have this huge shift in the way we work, and it's generally known as the Industrial Revolution, or the industrial work landscape, as I'm calling it. This is the introduction of more machinery and tools, but there's also something else going on as well. We're learning how to standardize the work, so that way we can shift from one person who has mastery, and now we're shifting to a different model of productivity, which is the power of harnessing a collective workforce. We're taking a lot of moving parts and we're pursuing efficiency. And we're pursuing efficiency by seeing this really big project, and we're breaking it down into smaller stages and steps. And then we're really working on how do we deal with the barriers, the bottlenecks that would keep the collective workforce away from achieving really big results. So instead of one person dedicating themselves to this project or this trade as an art form, now there's a huge shift. Work is a science. We're learning about time studies and organizational systems and hierarchies, and it's all about kind of the gears that are making things go faster. And yes, the Industrial Revolution is huge in terms of the tools that were introduced, but the thing I want to emphasize here is the pursuit of efficiency is what productivity looked like in this context, and the best practice was the standardization of operation, right? SOPs, documenting the work with the intention of delegation, learning how to shift from just one person working to a bunch of people working in a coordinated way. That was a huge shift. That's the thing that really marked the landscape in my mind. Then we move on to the next landscape, which is what I'm referring to as the knowledge work landscape. I get that language from a guy named Peter Drucker. He saw the emergence of intellectual labor, that it was actually being accepted and needed because of the introduction of the service economy. This idea that doing mental labor, doing intellectual work was going to be a valid profession. Just thinking. It's not just for the philosophers who are just kind of on the fringe. Now there's this whole new landscape where the workforce is showing up to do meaningful work with thinking and information and knowledge and creativity and administration and more. The pursuit here is strategy. Before, in the industrial work landscape, everyone was being tightly managed. They'd all show up to the same place. They had a little spot in the assembly line and they would just work like clockwork. But now in this new landscape, people are venturing out and they are creating and administrating things without a set plan or procedure that everyone can make sense of. And people are becoming more and more empowered to do work and to make decisions in order to keep a lot of knowledge workers moving in the same direction and staying in alignment. There had to be this high level strategy of, long-term thinking, planning, and then taking some of the thinking of, coordinating a workforce. But now this is another level. This is a high-level strategy that is going to both align and empower a new kind of leader in the workplace. And so with that in mind, the second aspect of strategy is that each knowledge worker, so to speak, is strategizing their own work, which is something that was not happening before. You were told what to do. You were told how to do it. Now the knowledge worker has to figure that out on their own. Having their own sense of strategy was really important. They were pursuing, how do I strategize my time? How do I strategize my systems? How do I strategize the best way to work? The best practice that really emerged out of that time, based on what I see, is this idea of prioritization. How are we prioritizing time and tasks and teamwork in order to stay on track with that high level strategy? That was kind of the Wild West world of knowledge work, the introduction of that, and then it only took off even more as we go into the fourth historical work landscape, which I'm calling just the digital work landscape. And I don't have to talk too much about this because this is where we are right now. And this is actually the introduction of the internet and really the Internet of Things. In each landscape, we're pursuing something. That's what's pushing the boundaries and expanding that landscape. And eventually we kind of break into a whole new landscape of work. And that's what creates the seismic shift, and everything's changing, and we have to kind of level up again. In the craftsmanship landscape, we're pursuing mastery. That's how we're being really productive in that context. And then we expand to industrial work landscape, and we're pursuing efficiency to be very productive in that landscape. Now we get into the knowledge work landscape, and we're pursuing strategy to be very productive. And then here we're in the digital work landscape, and we're still kind of figuring it out. We're hanging on as best we can, but we're pursuing technology to be very productive in this environment. I just want to give a little bit of context so that way you go into this year with a framework of how you're going to do your best work and lead well without a sense of hesitation. You can really get lost in the world of work and you're wondering what to work on, how to get people to work well together, and then what the next frontier in your field really looks like. So just based on these four landscapes, the historical ones of the way work has already happened, this is going to represent the four pursuits that led to the way we work better. And now let's apply the four best practices that fit into your own toolbox of skills. So the first one is, I think it is a central component to just work and your life's work to be someone that's pursuing mastery. What's your one thing? Do you have a lot of time to deliberately practice that skill at a foundational level? I think every leader needs to identify what their signature strength is, what their core contribution is going to be, where they are going to be world class. And it starts, in my view, the productivity, framework starts with every leader dedicating a huge time block, either daily or weekly, to just keep practicing their thing. We're going to stack on top of that. We don't replace that. We expand our capacity. We expand our productivity based off of that. So the first kind of central thing is pursuing mastery, and the best practice is deliberate practice. You need to have a big time block, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes bare minimum. Some even push it to 3 or 4 hours. And think about, being a musician. Think about being a video gamer. Think about studying law. Like, people dedicate a lot of their time to be very proficient in their thing. But if you are a leader, you're also thinking about the organization. You're thinking about the team and the moving parts and how you're going to advance your mission. And so we still need more skills to stack on top of our own personal contribution. That's what brings us into the next pursuit and best practice. And that is just focused on efficiency. That efficiency is kindness in your work culture. Nothing is more frustrating, confusing, demoralizing than an inefficient work culture. And, it's painful to even talk about, but it needs to be said so that way we can still encourage one another. And I talk a lot about the balance between results and relationships. But I think, efficiency is the kind of the intersection between those two themes. When you have a commitment to pursue efficiency, specifically in a team context, you are communicating to everybody. The mission matters, the work we do matters, our time matters, our work sessions matter. Let's make it optimal. And so a leader who is leading by example, leading the charge, they are going to pursue efficiency, not to be some sort of taskmaster, and drive the team harder, but they do it as a service to the organizational culture. Well, the best practice that I've identified, and again, this is just a very brief history of productivity, but I wanted to better understand this and then kind of triage what are the top best practices that an individual can do on a leadership level. So, do you have a big block of your time just to do your thing, just to get better at your own contribution? Now, when you're thinking about the team, the best practice would be SOPs, or standard operating procedures. For some of you, this is going to be like, okay, I need to do this. And for others, you're like, oh man, we hear so much about this. So everyone's kind of in a different part of this, journey. But it is really helpful and important to work on documenting the work that needs to get done with the intention of delegation. There was an old book that went viral, and it was called the E-Myth, the Entrepreneur Myth, and that was basically the best takeaway that a lot of people got out of it. Like, the whole book basically got boiled down to work on your business, not just in your business. And that's the shift, that we're making. We're moving up to look down at the work, and the work itself is the project. We're working on making this process better so that way more people can get involved with it without the tribal knowledge, the miscommunication, the clashing, the team, turf wars. And, that is huge when it comes to figuring this out. And leaders have to pursue efficiency, and then the best practices, they are, I was going to say militant, but what I mean is they're being very disciplined. They're insisting on having documentation of the work so that way delegation can be done effectively. And so you might say, Peter, I'm a solopreneur, I'm not at that stage yet. What do I do? It's still really valuable to document your work. Document what you're working on with the intention of delegation, because two things are going to happen. One is you are going to see the inefficiencies much more readily if you're putting it, in writing. Otherwise, it's all kind of tangled up in your own thinking, and you're kind of normalizing something that could be holding you back. So you're going to get better just by personally doing this process. But secondly, you are inching closer, intentionally yet incrementally, towards delegating something. Delegation is not just that you don't do work. Delegation is it's freeing you up to pursue mastery for your own core contribution, as well as improve the efficiency of the overall organization and picture. Now that kind of moves us into the third historical landscape, the knowledge work landscape. Pursuing strategy is really important. So maybe you're kind of thinking, okay, we're getting our day-to-day humming and it's going smooth, but we don't really have direction for this team yet. We don't really have a sense of direction or a sense of cohesion in our organizational culture. And we're definitely not at this stage where we have a lot of leaders on board yet. And so maybe you are the team manager, but there's nobody else as a team of leaders functioning with you. So now it's time to shift into pursuing strategy to be more productive. And it's kind of an A-B, like I mentioned, having the strategic plan, so to speak, for your organization, your work. And that could be things like mission and vision and core values and objectives and KPIs and data and all that stuff. But you just get started, and you'll navigate that as you go. It's good to finish everything on time, and it's good to be making sales, and it's good to be getting great reviews and testimonials that the mission is happening. But where's this thing ultimately going? And that is another level of productivity that we need to be factoring in. Your whole organization will expand at the level of strategic clarity that you have. So it's not just about where you are today, but where you are, 10 moves from now, 15 moves from now, etc. It's another complement to leaders that are thinking more future focused, and they're using the tools at that high level strategy stratosphere to serve. They're actually serving the organization, they're serving the team, and they're developing more leaders that can be thinking and collaborating well on that level. Now, on the personal side, strategy looks like implementing something as simple as a planner. I have an analog planner. That's how I'm applying the daily kind of prioritization of tasks and using my time more wisely. Just to review best practices, you got to block out time to keep practicing your one thing to pursue mastery in, a core contribution. Then you've got to be having a commitment either weekly or monthly to document the work that's being done with the intention of delegation. And that's a commitment you come back to again and again because you want to keep making things better. And you'll start solo, and it might just be like a one-page doc, very simple, but eventually this thing is just going to grow and multiply, and your systems will have systems. And so at that point, you're going to need to bring on other people, and they'll actually help you co-create the more efficient version of your vision. Then with this strategy piece, it's really thinking more future focused, using tools to communicate vision and strategy as a means of serving and empowering more leaders, freeing them up to start making decisions, freeing them up to start exploring and expanding in their own fields. And that strategy is actually a unifying piece. It keeps people in alignment. And then we need to all be doing this personally. We need to be strategizing our time and our tasks really well. Moving to the fourth historical landscape, pursuing this value of technology. Don't be afraid of technology. We need to be wise about it. We need to be discerning with it. But it's absolutely part of the culture that we live in. The same way that the Roman road system was used for the expansion of trade and culture, as well as, in my view, the expansion of the gospel. We need to see the technology as the modern Roman road system that is going to help us advance our mission as well. With that in mind, don't be afraid of technology. You need to lean into it. And the best practice is automation. I don't know if I mentioned it directly or not yet, but automation is the way you're going to become more productive. And automation is just kind of like connecting all these dots together. Maybe you're techie, maybe you're not, but regardless, even if you're a solopreneur, you gotta embrace these automations. Automate one thing and then do it again and do it again and do it again. And eventually automation is gonna turn into integration, in the sense that now you're learning how to integrate your tools together and integrate your systems together. One thing I didn't mention is that in this whole digital work landscape, a big aspect is we're figuring out integration, because so much of our lives have become fragmented. The lines are blurred between work and life. And so now the modern professional is really trying to rediscover themselves and rediscover their life. And so work-life integration is a big value for them. So what happens is when you embrace automation, then you can experience more integration, both in your organizational context as well as in your own work-life balance. Okay, but what about this fifth landscape? So this is me just throwing it out there. You don't have to agree with me, that's totally fine. But I'm gonna say that the next work landscape, the one that we're going into, the one that we are pioneering, is gonna be labeled the emerging futures landscape. Now, just hang in there with me. I'm not talking about alternate timelines like the Marvel movies. What I'm talking about is the rate of opportunities. There are so many opportunities out there. There are these emerging futures, and before, it would take too long to develop mastery, develop the systems to integrate strategies and technologies to actually get out there into these emerging futures. And I mean like multiple emerging futures. And so you kind of had to pick where you wanted to win. But now we have this opportunity of pursuing agility. And when we pursue agility in the emerging futures work landscape, we're actually not just reacting to the changes and the disruptions, but the way we work is participating with the future, and it's actually collaborating and co-creating these opportunities. And the pursuit in this new landscape is going to be agility. You're going to have to be prepared to be decisive, to be in alignment, and to move together with your entire organization as a unified force for good. That's why I'm saying the best practice for that landscape is going to be leadership preparedness. It is the focus of this podcast. If you want to practice leadership preparedness with some low-hanging fruit, at the tactical level, I would say learn how to do one-on-ones really well at scale. That's a lot. Thank you for your patience. What I wanted to do here is give you a framework to say you're not leaving these landscapes behind, you are expanding. And I thought what was wild about this is it's kind of a story of any pioneering leader. You have to learn how to go for mastery personally as an individual. And then you've got to learn how to involve a team of people to accomplish a goal. And then you have to not just have your own team that you manage, but now you have to start raising up leaders that are going to go further than you. And you've got to give them strategy and tools to, stay in alignment with your why. And then it starts getting bonkers in this, digital context, and it's all about staying connected. And then we're kind of imagining the future together, and we're learning how to create the future and participate with the future instead of just react to all of the changes and disruptions. So hopefully we're becoming much more future focused and hopeful in the way we approach our work. Please leave a comment. Let me know which landscape really resonates with you. Which of the 5 best practices are you going to adopt in the next 90 days? Thanks so much. There's probably a link that you need to click below, And that is our way of going further faster in this leadership community. Remember, the future has so many fields waiting on you. That's why you need to prepare to go there.